However, I am talking another drugs about the lac vaccinum or defloratum, that is the skimmed milk. Usually, this previously we have talked about the lac can, and now today I am talking about the lac defloratum is also another. This remedy, which is disease remedy for the disease with the faulty nutritions. So that is the faulty nutritions, the disease which is originated from the faulty nutritions. This type of disease condition, we can think of the Lac Defloratum. However, there is sometimes we find that some sick headache is very important with profuse flow. Usually sick headache is very important. Vague pain is also there, that is present in somebody's complaining. So in that senses, we can think about these drugs where there is a vague pain or sick headache or malaise or weakness or prostrations. For these cases, when there is the faulty nutritions are also there, in this category, we can think of the Lac defloratum, vaccinum or defloratum. So with profuse flow of the urine during the pain, profuse flow of the urine during pain, and it is also very important that flow of urine with pain is also very important. Even there is some other characteristic symptoms are there, that is the car sickness. So in case of the car sickness, हम copulus indica petroleum is also important, and coccus cacti, copulus indica is also important for the case of the car sickness. But another medicine also important for the cases of the car sickness, that is the Lac defloratum. So if we see in general, that is the usually the headache is also very important. The patient becomes severe headache, despondent, pain begins in the forehead to the occiput. This type of headache is very important. Forehead to occiput, the problem usually aggravation in the morning or rising, the intense throbbing is there, and with the nausea and vomiting and blindness and obstinate constipation is also there. What's usually vomitation, blindness and obstinate, what's noise, light, motion, and during the menses. Usually these are the very sensitive part, sensitive factor which may cause aggravation, and light motion during the menses with great prostration and better by pressure and bandaging it tightly. It is very important. Now देखो कभी कभी कहते कुछ डिजीज कंडीशन में कुछ बोल नहीं सकते, पॉजिटिव फैक्टर मालूम नहीं, all the pathology reported the normal, but there is no such very characteristic symptoms or sign are there. So in that sense, we must consider that is the Lac vaccinum. So if we see the Lac vaccinum, with there is intense prostration, weakness, aggravation during the menses, and noise, light odor, and better by the pressure and bandaging head tightly. So the headache usually is prostration, better by pressure, and bandaging head tightly is very important modality. So हमारे पास और कार्बोलिक एसिड also there, belladonna is also there, bryonia is also there. The stools are usually mostly constipated stools are there. These are very characteristics of the characteristics of these drugs. Constipated stool, large with great straining, painful and lacerating anus. So due to the constipation, they will find that there may be some laceration in the rectal level, and painful condition are also most important. So one is the headache along with the nervousness, intense throbbing, nausea, vomiting, especially in the morning, with blindness and obstinate constipation. Usually they are worse in the noise and the light and odor and the motion, and during the menses this is also very important, with great prostration and better by the pressure and better by pressure and bandaging head tightly is very important. And stool is mostly constipated stools are hard, large with great straining, painful lacerating anus, painful lacerating anus is also important. And colostrum, diarrhea in infants, whole body smells are also very important. Diarrhea infants, okay. The colostrum, छोटा बच्चा का अगर कभी डायरिया हो गया है तो we can think of the colostrum. That is also very important. In case of the hard stool, this medicine is important, like defloratum, but also another medicine, magnesium, is also important. Then calcula carb, silicea, causticum, these are also important. Sulfur and whole body, the smell sour and colic is also very important. And whole body becomes smell sour and colic is also important. And as there is pain and sourness, our medicine, rheum is also one of the important medicine for the case of the sourness. Magnesium carbonicum is also there, calcula carbonica, hypersulfuric is there, silicea is there, and so many drugs are also important for the cases of this Lac Defloratum. If we see that is the Dr. Swan that was invented this medicine, so this which I have given to some extent the basic idea regarding the Lac Defloratum. Now if we start from this way, that is the Dr. Swan is this remedy owes the origin of the swan who is in the town, got it idea of potentizing skimmed milk, that is the skimmed milk, upon reading the Dunkin skimmed milk, treatment of diabetes and Bright's disease. So this medicine may be useful in case of the diabetes as also the Bright's disease. So in case of the diabetes and Bright's disease, this is also one of the important medicine and we can think about it. The constipation, what will find in the constipation, the dropsy, the kidney, diabetes, headache, okay, constipation, dropsy, okay, diabetes, headache, vomiting, globus hystericus, and menses suppressed is also obesity, and lactation defective is also important. So constipation important, dropsy important, obesity important, diabetes is also important, headache important, vomiting is also important, globus hystericus is also important, menses suppressed is also important, menses suppressed is important, and obesity and lactation defective is also important. The constitution physical makeup of the patient is pale, very sickly, anemic looking, and the worn out constitution, wasted person with sallow complexion is also there. Physical makeup of the pale, sickly, anemic look, worn out, with wasted persons with sallow complexion is also there. So due to the inability to this digestion, or there may be the dropsy or the diabetes or the vomiting or the globus hystericus or the menses of the patient unable to take the food, that's why. Next number is the relation with the so they become the weak and prostrated. In relation with the there is the chilly patient, even there they become the patient become the very chilly even when there remains in warm room, even there remains near the fire. So if we see that in the Lac Defloratum is a chilly patient, previously what we told that in the terimethrin is also chilly patient. There are so many medicines which are chilly patient, but Shora and syphilis is the background. Next number, the guiding symptoms we see the great prostration is felt whether she does anything or not. Great fatigue when walking is also important. Great prostration is felt whether she does anything or not. Great fatigue when walking is also important. इसलिए prostration anything due to any reason with great fatigue and walking is also important. It is one of the topmost medicine for the sick headache is also important. इसलिए headache के लिए topmost medicine also important with great prostration along with this no desire to take the food or inability to the food because of the globus hystericus, we can think of these drugs. The constipation, there the stool become the large, the stools becomes large head, uh, uh, the stools becomes large and hard and painful and extorting cries also there. So what it indicates that during the stools, this stool is very hard, very naughty, unable to expel out and painful is there, severe painful with extorting cries is also there. Whenever it is passing, there is severe pain and the patient usually cries for it. Aversion to milk is also another important. So they don't like to take the milk. Aversion to milk is also important. ठीक है ना, aversion to milk is also important, and ठीक है, other drugs are there. There is an aversion to milk is also there, magnesium group and carbonicum group. There is an aversion to milk, but Lac Defloratum also aversion to milk because this medicine is prepared from this cholesterol and so on. The milk sickness, the aversion to milk is important. The milk sickness, it is most useful in frequently needed remedy for those who cannot take the milk. ये भी एक बात है, useful frequently needed for those person who do not like milk or cannot take the milk in any form, who suffer from various complaints like disorder, stomach, headache, etc. Those who are the cannot suffering from, they are mostly suffering from stomach disorder or headache, stomach disorder, headache. इसके लिए हमेशा उनको बहुत तकलीफ है. Even associated with the milk sickness also there. It is used in cases of deficient milk secretion in young mothers also there. So जो लोगों का milk secretion होते हैं, especially in the young mothers, for them it is very important medicine. So delivery होने के बाद कोई किसी का अगर milk secretion नहीं होता, उनका कम से कम उनका think of the Lac Defloratum is also there. But what is happening? It is used in case of the deficient milk secretion in young mothers. Deficient secretion in young mothers, to dry up mothers is also there. So after delivery, if there is no such milking, we can think of the these drugs. Even to if there is an excessive milking is there and the baby feels suffocated and there is the suffocation is there and patient sometimes becomes suffocated and other complications starts due to overflowing of the milk. So to dry up the milk, we can think of the asafoetida and laccan. So this is the basic difference between the two medicines. One is the laccan and the Lac Defloratum is this. Menses delayed or suppressed by putting hands in cold water. It is very important. We have seen this type of symptoms is present in case of the phosphorus. Or calcira carb also, in case of the calcira carb, staying or sitting on the cold stone, that is the calcira carb. But in case of the phosphorus, or putting the hands into the cold water is very important. Okay, so used in cases, so menses delayed or suppressed by putting hands in cold water is also important. Drinking a glass of milk with prompt suppression flow until next period. ये बहुत बड़ी important symptoms है, and even on one symptom basis we can prescribe the medicine. Okay, so what we'll find here, that is the it is a very important symptoms of these drugs. That is the if any person who has taken the milk and after taking the milk, if anybody's menses has been stopped, we can think of the drugs. Okay, so menses delayed or suppressed by putting hands in cold water, even drinking a glass of milk will promptly suppress flow until next period. Great restlessness is also very important. Great restlessness is very important, and extreme and protracted suffering from loss of sleep is also important. So in case of the great restlessness and extreme and profound protracted suffering from loss of sleep is also very important. Usually what will happen, restlessness with protracted suffering from loss of sleep. We have seen the cocculus indicates also one of them, naxmic and nitric acid is also important. So protracted suffering from loss of sleep is there, but somewhere it has been written that nitric acid can do work day and night without any fatigue. ये भी लिखा है, इसलिए कोई कोई जगह में contradictory symptoms भी है. But another thing is that the globus hystericus is very important to these drugs. Globus hystericus is also very important to these drugs. So sometimes this type of globus hystericus symptoms we will find in the ignatia and sometimes the natremure. Okay, so globus hystericus is also very important symptoms of this drug, ignatia, natremure, even the ambragresia, even the Abies nigra and so on. So next, globus hystericus, sensation of the large ball rising from the stomach to the throat is also very important. Causing sense of suffocation is also very important. Asafoetida bhi hai and calmia, latifolia bhi hai. Even sometimes cactus may be hai because the cactus has some constriction feeling in the throat and other where there is the circular muscles fibers are there. Next, our sensation as if cold air was blowing on her, even while covered up, as if seats were damp. So sometimes the patient sensation as if some cold air is also blowing over the head and whole body, and was even while covered up, it sits up where there is the sensation of their damp, or they are the sitting or lying down in the beds which is already wetted. ठीक है ना? So इसलिए ऐसे feeling, cold feeling and coldness or the damp feeling is very important to us. Drugs, nausea and vomiting also very important drug with no relationship to eating. Nausea and vomiting is also very important, no relationship with eating. First there is vomiting and undigested food substance are there, and intensely acrid, then of bitter water. Nausea and vomiting also very important, and then intensely acrid, there is the bitter water, and this nausea and vomiting especially usually present in case of the pregnancy. There is pregnancy के time अगर कोई आदमी कोई फीमेल स्पेशली nausea vomiting होते and vomiting कर देते और कुछ खाना नहीं जाते, वो जगह हम लैक डिफ्लोरेटम दे सकते हैं. इवन मिल्क ड्राई हो गए, मिल्क ड्राई होने के कारण अगर है तो लैक कैन, but for the increasing the milk we will think of the lac defloratum. So during pregnancy also be causation, these are injuries, so it may be injuries to any other part of the body. If injuries, milk is also one of the cause. Loss of the sleep is also important. The defective nutrition is also important. Putting the hands in cold water is important. Suppressed malaria is also important. Suppressed malaria, putting the hands into cold water is important. Defective nutrition is important. Loss of sleep is also very important. Milk important, and the injury is important. And so mind, mentally the patient is very despondent and udashiti hamente. So this type of symptoms is present here. The mind is also becomes despondent. He does not care to live and has no fear to death. So कभी-कभी क्या होते हैं, उदासीन, they want to commit suicide, or they want, and that is they don't like to be survived, or the aversion to care of the body and has no fear of the death, but it is sure he is going to die. It's sure he is going to be die is also important. Particularly headache, causation, milk, loss of the sleep is also important. So causation, milk is also important, and loss of sleep is also important. Then location, causation, milk, beginning on the forehead, extreme headache, beginning in the forehead and extending to the occipital region also important. Bryonia, Naxmica, Scipia, and tuberculinum also. Bryonia, Scipia, Naxmica, and tuberculinum is also important. So there is headache frontal to occipital. This type of headache is also very important. Sensation as if head with the bust. There is also sense of as if the top of head was lifted off and brain was coming out. It is also one of the important symptoms. So if we see it as if head would the burst, as if head would burst, and there is also a sensation as if the top of the head was lifted off, and the brain was coming out as a feeling of a severe headache. With this type of feeling, head would burst into pieces like this. Character for the pain is the most excruciating and unbearable pain is also there. Character of the pain is very excruciating and unbearable. Intense throbbing pain in the forehead is also there. Intense throbbing pain, forehead. Modality is aggravation in the morning and rising up, okay, and noise, light, motion during menses, conversation, but periodically every 8 days. So aggravation is very important of the menses, as also the headache. The headache, aggravation in the morning on rising, even the nausea and vomiting also there. The patient cannot take the milk in any form, and there is also headache starts from the forehead to the occiput, and during menses, conversation, and periodically every 8 days. So if there is a headache every 8 days interval, we can think of these drugs and so on. Amelioration, it is a very pressure, and the tight bandaging is also important. Refuge urination, also amelioration. So gelsemium also there, if there is any headache which is relieved by the profuse urination, very uncommon peculiar symptoms of the gelsemium was there. And the cold application is also important. So headache, pressure, tight bandaging, profuse urination, cold application is also very important. The concomitant headache is the patient is mostly anemic, and the chilly patient who have tendency to constipation is also there. Headache in the anemic, chill blends, or the chilly patient who have tendency to constipation, who have that tendency to constipation. एक शब्द में बहुत कुछ बोल दिया. The tendency to constipation, chilly patient, anemic patient, headache associated with intense photophobia. Headache associated with intense photophobia, great prostration. Headache is great prostration. Nausea and vomiting and blindness. There is the nausea and vomiting, and the blindness is also very important on the drugs. Even headache alternating with the tonsillitis. Headache alternating with the tonsillitis, according to the clerk, is a very important symptoms of this drug. This may be the very landmark modalities of these drugs. The headache and alternating with the tonsillitis, very uncommon symptoms. Perhaps this may be the clinical symptoms. And एकादश patient को ऐसे मिले थे. Then Dr. Clark has been added here. Constipation, it is needed in an inveterate cases. Constipation, it is so severe, so painful, so crucial, so teasing that very difficult to expel the stool. Inveterate cases, intensely chronic cases where the most powerful purgative fails. Itna severe constipation, and even the purgatives are also failed. So in these cases, purgative fails. Intensely chronic cases where the most powerful purgative fails, it is usually associated with the periodical headache and the vomiting. So it's not एक शब्द बोल दिया, the periodical headache with the vomiting. ठीक है ना? Even the severe headache, vomiting, these are very important. And the vomiting. The faces are very dry, fauces are very dry, the mouths are become very dry and hard, and large, even the stools are very hard, large, dry, and they are the lacerated and exploding the cry with ineffectual urging. Even it is so severe, so painful that the rectum becomes very painful, teasing, and difficult in expelling them, and difficult to memorize them, and difficult to removing the pain also there. So excreting courage when the ineffectual urging, hard, knotty, and they have lacerated. It has been used in dropsy from organic heart disease or etc. It has been used in dropsy from organic heart disease और weak heart, ठीक है ना. तो इसलिए weak heart, दो पेशेंट्स weak heart ड्रॉपसी कंडीशन में यूज हो सकते हैं, और हार्ट डिजीज में वीक हार्ट है फ्रॉम क्रॉनिक लिवर कंप्लेंट्स आर देयर हैविंग द क्रॉनिक लिवर कंप्लेंट्स फॉर एडवांस एल्बुमिन आल्सो सप्रेस्ड मलेरिया इज आल्सो देयर. इसलिए वो लोगों के लिए सबसे ज़्यादा तकलीफ होते हैं जो लोगों को ड्रॉपसी सफरिंग है, एल्बुमिन है, सप्रेस्ड मलेरिया है, एंड यूज्ड फॉर द ऑर्गेनिक हार्ट डिजीज है. एंड नॉट ओनली द वीक हार्ट फ्रॉम क्रॉनिक लिवर कंप्लेंट्स. कभी कभी देखा जाए दो लोग दारू पीते हैं, उन लोगों को लिवर भी खराब होता है, हार्ट का भी प्रॉब्लम होते हैं. सो लिवर कंप्लेंट्स विद हार्ट डिजीज एंड क्रॉनिक लिवर कंप्लेंट्स आर देयर एडवांस एंड familiar with from suppressed malaria. जो कोई suppressed malaria होते हैं वो जगह में. Compare natrium is also very important of the drugs. Okay, natrium is also very important. It is also having the excessive dryness of the mucous membrane. Sanicula is also there where there is excessive hardness, dryness of the mucous membrane. So that Defloratum is also completed. Thank you.